Hello. Once again, it is a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday at more or less 10 o'clock Eastern U.S. time, Eastern Daylight Time. Um, and that can mean many, many things, but in this particular day, which is a Friday at more or less 10, it means that the stream is happening on behalf of Dyson Dungeons. And I am actually planning to do a tiny little bit of painting today. But mostly what I'm gonna be doing is inventorying all the parts that I cleaned up, giving them one more inspection, getting them clean, and deciding on, the next steps, like what's gonna happen next in terms of the assembly of the U-505 submarine, this thing that's supposed to end up looking like this when I'm done. I can tell you what I was planning to do since the color of the primer is really a pretty good bottom hull color. It really is. So I'm just going to use when I prime it. I'm just going to use that as the bottom of the hull color, and then I've got this other lighter color that I'm hoping will work for the top. It's called light ghost gray. I mean, what can be better than light ghost gray for the surface of a submarine that's supposed to be invisible in the ocean? So it's going to be lighter than that. So there will be a contrast between the top and the bottom. And if there's nothing to compare it to, who's going to know that it was wrong? Nobody, right? Right. Um, so as what I was originally planning to do, this was my plan before, is that I was going to assemble everything except the guns and the propellers because the guns are painted black, and I don't want to overpaint them. I mean, not paint them too much, but paint over what's already painted. I don't want to do that. So I was planning to just prime everything, um, and then tape off the bottom, and then spray paint the top this lighter color. But I have to say, but the problem here, there is a problem. The problem is that if I put all of these delicate parts on the top, and they are like the little antenna and this little bit back here, just tiny little pieces, the capstans, how am I going to hold it? I'm going to hold it in order to prime it because I have to prime all the way to the top and the bottom and fore and aft and port and starboard, all of that. How am I going to do that? And the answer to that was I wouldn't be able to do that. So realizing that if I put all of these parts on, there's no way to hold it, I have come up with an alternate plan, which may or may not work. So the alternate plan is to attach all of the stuff on the bottom of the hull, the diving planes and the rudder and the propeller holder, drive shaft, propeller shafts, that kind of stuff, all of that. Attach all of those on the bottom. And then, since the top is relatively flat, just set it down on its top and then prime the hull. I'll show that to you in a bit. And then after the whole bottom is primed, okay, then I would install the stuff on the top, all the little bits and pieces, and then turn it over so it's right side up and prime the top. And I want to prime the top the same color, and hopefully they'll blend. Hopefully there won't be like a big line or something where the spray paint's sprayed over. I don't think there will be. Um, and when I do that, when I'm thinking I'm going to end up, then this has to stand up somehow, right? So there's two ways of doing that. One is I could actually just put it in its stand because that's what holds it. And this is already painted, but I can either tape it, mask it so that it doesn't get repainted again, or I can just let it get primed again. It doesn't much matter, and then paint it again because it's just painted black. It's just stand. Um, but I'll cross that Rubicon when I come to it. But yeah, that's my plan now. Is I'm going to attach the bottom stuff, the bottom of the hull, the rudder, and the diving planes, and the drive shafts. Maybe the propeller guard. I have to test fit the propellers to see how well they fit and how easy it is to put them on after it's assembled. And then turn it on its top and prime the bottom of the hull. And then I can turn it over, somehow support the hull, and and prime the top. Actually, as I'm thinking about that, this is a thing I could actually do since the priming of the hull will include priming this bit here, okay, this part here above the bottom of the hull, is that after I turn it upside down and prime this, and this is the color I want it to be, I could actually then do the masking then, okay? And then I don't have to worry about there being a paint line or putting it on the stand and worrying about there being blobs of paint where the stand is attached to the hull. If I mask this line, okay, after I prime the hull upside down, then then if there's a line, it'll be right on the line, right? I mean, that won't be an issue at all, and that'll give me an opportunity to spend way too much time trying to get that line right, and not breaking off these little bits that are attached ahead of time. The alternative, and there's always an option, not always, there's sometimes an option, is that I could paint all these parts separately, the drive shaft and the rudders and the dive planes, and attach them after it's all painted. I'm going to try not to do that. I'm going to try to paint it all at once because it would just look better. Then, then I don't have to worry about, especially with spray paint like that, the contact cement. I would be using contact cement, marring the painting surface, and I'd have to repaint it anyway. So that's the thing I'm going to try to do. I do believe that I have all of the parts, all the little bits that need to be that were on the sprue. But what I'm going to do is an inventory, and they're all in here. I believe they're all in here now. I'm going to do an inventory of them, and I'm going to put them in this container instead of this container. And the reason for that is that this container actually closes and this one doesn't. So I'm going to dump these out, and I'm going to, as I do an inventory, I'm going to sort them into two batches. The ones that go on the bottom, like the propellers and the propeller shafts and the propeller shaft supports. Okay, the ones that go on the bottom are going to be, I'm going to put them back in here because I'm going to be attaching them. And the other ones that go on the top, I'm going to put in here. I'm going to actually dump all of these here. Tiny little pieces, right? All sorts of little pieces. I might even get it tweezers. And I'm definitely taking off my glasses because I can't see close up, right? You all know that. So there's the propeller shaft piece and the propellers. One, The propeller shaft supports these little bitty pieces. There's one, the other, and then the rudders. This is a rudder, and this is a rudder. Um, the bow plane. There's a lot that goes on the bottom. And the other bow plane, and then there's the bow plane guard that goes in front of the bow plane. That in case something smashes into it, it bounces off the guard. That's the intent anyway. Okay, and then the stuff that goes on the top are the periscopes. Those are important. Um, two capstans, tiny little bits. Capstan. The mast. No, one more thing goes on the bottom. That's the guard that goes on the bottom of the propeller. There's the mast. There's the two. There's the cable cutter and the two cable cutter supports. And then there is the cable tripods, which holds up the antennae, the cable antennae that I'm supposed to somehow make happen. And then there is the antenna, which is just a little bit, mostly a lot actually messed up. Because when I was getting it to work, I I broke it, and now it's got green stuff putty on it. I guess that's gonna look okay. And those are, I don't want to lose those pieces. Those are going to be put on after the whole thing is primed. Okay. So now we're back to all of these bits. There's lots of these bits. I'm going to start by getting the biggest one and the second smallest ones. This box. And this is the propeller shaft, and goes this way. And what I want to try to do here is part is not done yet. Okay, is that the propeller has to somehow be attached to the propeller shaft. I do not see how that. Yeah, that's how it has to happen. Yeah, and as I suspected, it doesn't quite. This one's not too bad. That one fits. That one fits pretty tightly. This one doesn't. Um, I need to file I need to make this thing a little smaller. Pin onto which it sits to be slightly smaller. This is kind of what I was afraid of, is that attaching these when the part is not attached to anything is hard enough. Attaching these when it's attached to the submarine is going to be almost impossible. Because there's going to be very little clearance, and this is really in the way. If it goes on like that, then it could be done. So I want them to go on really easily. So if I put contact cement, if I think I can do it this way. This is going to be my preferred way to do that. Is if I grip them with the tweezers, I can reach up underneath, put it on. Yeah, that actually will work, and it will work even if the guard is on, which is a good thing. So I can do this after, like after everything else is done, pretty much. I don't want that to be a tight fit. I just don't. I want this to be kind of just a positioning pin, not a friction holding pin. Make it a little smaller. I want to be able to I want to put the propellers on and just have them just, just be located on there, but not held on there by it. I want to test fit these again using the tweezers method. Hi. I can talk with you via chat, but my large print screen. Oh no, I can't. Ah, I don't think I can respond on the chat screen. I've never tried that before. Hmm. Let me see. Sorry, I just noticed. Mm, no, sorry, I can't. Um, but I'm doing okay, and I'm sorry that you can't hear me. But if you get your headphones running on Monday, hopefully. I have to apologize that I really I don't have a way of doing that. I have to. I am not adept at any of the technology that is used on this stream. I'll just say that. I basically don't know what I'm doing. It either works or it doesn't, and sometimes it just doesn't. So I'm afraid I can't respond in chat. Okay, that's good. But thanks for joining in. I'm sorry you can't hear me when I'm saying that, but I do appreciate it. Okay, these are both work. This is all working now. What I'm going to do, what I need to do is I need to check all of these parts, like review all of them to make sure that I'm satisfied with how they've cleaned up in terms of the mold seams. And then I need to like wash them because they're all covered with sanding dust. I almost forgot about this. There's around the holes here, little there's little bits of plastic that kind of stick up. Yep. At Dyson Dungeons. I um I don't think I can type on the keyboard and do what I'm doing at the same time. I'm sorry. I have when I'm dealing with little parts like this, I can't. Um, but thanks for dropping in. I hope you stick with us. It's, it's, um, test fitting parts. Whoa! How did I miss that? Okay, I didn't clean up this part at all. This is still raw disaster. That little brace. It's like I totally missed it. This one is okay. Okay. So I have to file this and sand this. This is just how I started. That's what happened is I was doing the hard part. I was doing the inside, and then I never got around to doing the part that I don't know how I forgot that. It must have been near the end of the stream. That's why I'm double checking everything. Double, triple checking, multiple checks. As many checks as there are on a checkerboard. You can never have too many checks. I guess. I don't know. I'm not going to get into ethnic stuff, I guess. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I can't. That's why I work in a box. That part just went flying. I would have lost it if I hadn't been working over a box. Now I have to see the other one to see how this is supposed to look. How much of that plastic needs to come off. It looks like all of it needs to come off. Geez, everything's such a mess. This was the one that was supposedly done, but there's a ridge of plastic here. Um, yeah, no, I'll get that before I assemble it. Bob, here is where the sprue is attached. Parts are so tiny and they're so, it's not any place to hold on to them. One of the reasons I selected this model to build next is I didn't think there would be a whole lot of little parts and that it would be easy to paint, but there's a lot of little parts. Hopefully it will be easy to paint. It's kind of weird how I managed to get this part almost done, and then I didn't. I didn't finish it. So that was, I don't know if this was like at the end of the stream or quite when it was, but it was quite an oversight. It's a classic example of the, you can see the little white line there. Classic example of the mold marks, the seams between the molds. And how, in this case, the parts are slightly misaligned. And so it's taking a good deal of sanding to make the junction there go away. So it looks like a solid, just a solid piece of metal. What I'm going to do, the next thing I'm going to do before I start doing final inspection of the parts and cleaning them up, washing them, is I'm going to paint the propellers. I'm going to do that because I want to get something done today. I don't know how the rest of this is going to go. And then I'm going to try to remember way back in September. Da, 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 no, no. It was a song. Try to remember. I'm not sure where it was from. Some sort of musical play, maybe. They were trying to remember because they. I don't know if they succeeded. The song is "Try to Remember." Doesn't say remember when, it just said try to remember. Maybe they did remember, maybe they didn't. Hmm. That remains to me a mystery. Good. I'm getting a hand cramp already. And I'm only like 45, half an hour into the stream. Hmm. That doesn't bode well. Okay. So these propellers are going to be painted brass. But first, there's always a but first, I want to make sure that they are adequately prepped. Notice I said I'm going to paint them brass. I'm not going to prime them. I'm going to plan on the paint adhering to the plastic. And I think it will. I'm doing a shortcut. If it doesn't work, then I can always just prime them, right? And repaint them. These were really pretty messy when they came off of the sprue. A lot of places where there was just plastic where there shouldn't have been. Okay, so buttons. Um, First, I want to clean them. I'm going to clean them with some isopropyl alcohol. On I do that a lot lately. Is when I'm moving something like my hand, even from one place to another, I'll just bump into things. I try to be careful and not bump into things, but I just seem to be capable of really just bumping into stuff, not leaving enough clearance, really, is the situation. So, like when I was setting aside my glasses, I bumped into the edge of the box. I could be looking at this under the 2x magnifier, but I think that that's more than necessary for the quality of this model. But there is a lot of sanding dust on this, and there definitely needs thorough cleaning. You're supposed to not get oil from your fingers on the part. No, I'm not succeeding in doing that. I suppose I could wear gloves, maybe. And that part jumped right out of my hand. There's it's okay. No, it's pretty clean now. Um, you say, okay, this is what you could be asking right now. Because if you can't even hold on to them while rubbing them down with a dampened paper towel, how are you going to hold on to them and paint them and not paint the place where you're holding on? That is quite a good question. It's a question I asked myself. So, how am I going to do that? And then I answered it by saying, I'm going to do what I've done before, which has been done with some success, not always, but mostly, which is to get like a toothpick or another round thing that. This. And what I'm looking for is be able to put it in the hole and for it to be tight enough, create enough friction. Did I not get that? There's a little bit of old seam mark right there. What I want to do, and I was unsuccessful in that effort, is I want to put something in the hole that will be tight enough to hold enough friction to hold on to it. There, like that. That's not coming off. I just need to do another one. And then I can either just put them in a hole like that, or I can put them on an alligator clip. This is where it was broken, so this is the same diameter as the top of that one. So it should have the same effect. It should hold on really tight, and it does pretty much. It's much shorter, but that's actually okay. I would just assume that it was short. Put it on a clip, and then I'm going to take the other one and do the same. Break it so it's shorter, and then put it on a clip. There. Now I've got propellers and holders are being held, okay, like that, and not falling down or anything. And what I'm going to do is get some maneuvering room here, and get some brass paint, which is in this little jar. For the moment, and a little paintbrush. And mix up the paint, stir the paint. Wow, I just managed to put everything in the way. Everything is in the way. I did the thing I kept talking about when I try to move something. I don't know where the ends of my fingers are. Fortunately, it was just the wash water, but I managed to spill it by knocking into it. I'm going to have to be really. I'm going to just really have to be even more careful than usual, which is not saying much. Is it? No, being careful. I should just say I should try to be careful, not more careful than usual, because I could be 10 times more careful than usual and still not be careful enough. These instructions need to be away. Even more stuff in the way. That was good. I was reaching over those and almost knocked them over with my sleeve, and that would have been a bad thing. the buzzing that you hear and the vibration you see on the screen is this vibrating paint mixer thing that we've got that helps mix the paint more effectively, mixes the paint more effectively than just shaking the bottle like that. I got, as usual, a billion times more paint than I need. Yeah, I'll even move this over. You can see that I've got paint in the well here. Now it's supposed to go on the propeller, and it's supposed to adhere, cover it all nicely. Make it look like it's made out of brass. I want to get the bottom of it too. Yeah, that's it. I'm glad I didn't use the bright brass, and I didn't use the bronze. It would have been too dark. This is just right. It's brass, just like it says on the bottle. Hmm. Imagine it didn't lie. But yes, I am getting hand cramps already. And I even hydrated this morning, probably a little too much. So speaking of hydration, which I just did, and I just said hydrate, and I wasn't really speaking of hydration, I just mentioned it. Um, Hydration reminds me that maybe a break will be necessary, but as I have been saying, I am dog watching this week and all of next week and a little bit into the week after that, even. Um, and sometimes they just demand attention. So what I have been doing is I've been taking a break about midway through, like at 11:30, and it lasts anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on their needs. I think on Monday it was 15 minutes into the break, 10 minutes into the break, and the dogs were just fine. And then just as I was returning, I got the signal from the dog saying I need to go. And so that break ended up taking quite a bit longer than I had anticipated because I needed to take care of the dog. It's two dogs. Okay, these are now brass colored. Yeah, I'm gonna put them over there, up out of the way, so that I can't say it's impossible, but it's less likely. It's unlikely, sort of unlikely. It's somewhat unlikely that I'll bump into it and knock them over. Okay, so I'm going to look at the instructions and see what they say about the order in which things are to be attached. But um, this is advisory only. I almost very frequently do not go in the order recommended by the assembly instructions, largely because of things getting painted. Okay, so they say put the propellers on first, but I'm going to actually do them last. I'm going to put them on after this is all assembled. I do believe it'll be possible to do that. Okay, so the propeller shafts and the propeller shaft supports go on like this, and then the rudders and the guard, and then the bow plane and the bow guard. Okay. And you'll say, okay, so that's how they go on, but where do they go? Well, the answer to that is they go on to the bottom of the submarine. They go like here and here. But first, um, I'm reminding myself that I had put some filler in here that needs to be. I need to clean that off. I need to sand it. This was put on because there were just gaps there that I really didn't want there to be there. There is a the deck part is separate here at the bow and the stern, but it didn't have big gaps in it like that. So I put some filler in, and now I need to sand the filler so that it is gone except for the spots it's filling. Apparently I can't sand, filler, and talk at the same time. Can't do can't do a lot of things at the same time. Do this and that at the same time. So that throughout the process that I will be doing here, putting the stuff on the bottom of the submarine, while I'm doing that. The other thing I'm going to be trying to do is not break these really fragile railings, which has already happened once. Fortunately, it was a small fracture, very tiny fracture, and I was able to just click them back into place, and now it's invisible. But you, a fracture is small or not is undesirable. I want this to sort of polish this so that it's all kind of a uniform texture. Seems, seems to have done what needed to be done. And then there's a bit here on the stern, same sort of situation here. There's a little filler in there. do the same thing. Just sand it a bit with this. You can hardly see it, but there was a gap there, and now there isn't. And it is much better without a gap than it is with a gap. So this process worked. Um, Somebody working for the most part back here. This is where the propeller shafts go and the support, and then the guard, and then the rudders. But this is going to be setting on that really delicate railing, and I don't want that. So I have another idea. Here's an idea: is if I set it like this, okay, then it's supported, but not where that delicate railing is. That was an idea that was okay. That was an okay idea. It worked out okay. The parts I'm going to be using are this one, and these tiny things here. Move this way. This is be a little delicate. So I think these go. Yeah, they're going to get dropped. It'd be nice. It'd be nice if there was more box here. Um, I think I might do this. Yeah, it got dropped. Yay, dropping. Okay, yeah, it fits in there pretty well. Can get that in. Let's see how it looks on the other side. It should be, if I can get the part. Yeah, it goes in like that. They all kind of need to go in together, don't they? Going like that. There's lots of nice attachment points. That's nice. Nice. So the cement will go there, there, tiny bits there and there, in there and in there. Okay, well, I know what I'm doing. I know what I no, I don't. I shouldn't have said that. I know what I'm doing. That was not true. It's not like I know what I'm doing. I know what I need to do. I know how this should work. What I don't know is whether it will work the way it should work or not. That's the unknown part. So the parts have been test fitted and they fit. This is another clear example of why I don't use CA glue. Okay, because if I put these parts on with CA glue, it would set, and I know that the parts just aren't going to fit right initially. They just won't. They're going to have to be moved around a little bit. Um, and they might not fit well at all. And well, they will fit. I know they fit. That wasn't what I meant. Is that I might not get them to where they are supposed to be. That's the thing, is getting them in the right spot. So think think I'm going to put these guys in first, and then hope that I can get them in line with the rest of that. And that's how I'm going to do it. So these guys are going to get attached here and on the other side. That. And then what I hope to do is get, when this goes on, that the pin, and it did, like the pin goes into where it's supposed to go, like that. I'm just hoping that they'll line up, that they'll cooperate and line up when the parts go together. Contact cement would work for that. It would give it a little bit of movement, but I really should use model cement on this because I want it to hold really well. Hmm. Okay. Um, I'm going to use contact cement on these guys because they might have to move. Okay. I use model cement, just regular model cement on there, there, and the two little pinholes. That's, I mean, I hope that's the right thing to do. It just gives me more time and um, more flexibility, I'll say, in getting, well, getting the parts to the right spots. There's a thought. Put it across that way. I have better access to these things here. Pointy end. Really, like a spider webby thing. Can't see it. It's just attached and it's moving around. Okay. Um, it's actually supposed to set for a bit before putting the parts together, but I always get impatient. Always, always, always. And I'm just this one's setting in there pretty well. Now I've got how did I get two? Now the model cement. Um, got too much stuff sticking here. 'To apply with the point of the toothpick also, rather than squeezing it out of the thing there. Yeah, it's a good thing I use the contact cement. That's not pointing. Needs to point up. I usually, this is a, I don't know if you want to do it this way or not, but I usually put the cement not onto the part that's going into an opening, but in on the opening, because I think it minimizes the possibility of it smearing around. Okay. Now somehow you get those little pins in the little holes. I cannot see. That one's in. This one's not. Were they both in at the same time? No. That one was. Now this one isn't anymore. None of this is adhering. Okay. The problem here, it's a significant one, is that this is not, it's not adhering here at all. Pins in, pins in. There's a little side of the way. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Um, I'm just going to hold this for like 2 minutes, I guess. That's the recommended amount of time. Okay, I'll be able to sand that. I think I got cement on there. Just a little bit there, right in the crease of the thing. visible. Well, that didn't go how I hoped it to go. I mean, it's going okay, but it um, it left something to be desired in terms of the application of the cement. I've got little bright spots where the cement is. I'm going to have to try to clean those. And this is going to have to be okay, after this sets a little bit. This needs to be let me hold this in place. One thing at a time, one problem at a time. Okay, I'm going to deal with one problem at a time. So what I'm dealing with is a problem of the parts just not they're a little bit warped. Okay, just a little bit. So I'm holding this for like 3 minutes, so it holds in place. There's no other way to do it. And then I've got a problem with the little pins of the supports. Okay, where one side is in, but the other side just isn't um, it isn't lined up. So I'm going to hold this for like another 2 minutes. I'm going to count 120, 119, 118, 117, 116. 2 minutes takes a long time when you're just sitting here holding parts, wanting them to not move. Okay. Um, and hoping that they don't move when you put a little stress on them in a little while. 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now there's only 100 seconds to go. This is something that they tell modelers way back when I was building the kits when I was a kid. It was like hold firmly in place for at least 2 minutes. So I spent a lot of time getting stringy, spider webby cement on my fingers and spreading it around everywhere. And then with the cement on my fingers, holding things firmly in place for 2 or 3 minutes. What they really recommend is to clamp it or rubber band it or other things and let it set overnight. That was recommended, but there isn't any way to do that here. I mean, one would have to have incredibly gentle, highly manipulable clamps that I don't even know if they exist, but they don't in my world. So I'm just holding it here, and I've got about 70 seconds left. Now I'm down to the last minute. And there's a second hand on the clock that, yeah, there it is. I can see it. So when it ticks around back to the 11, when it ticks around back to the 11, then I can stop applying, holding firmly in place, and attempt to get this side where my thumb is um, held into where the little tiny pin is on the propeller shaft support, because it doesn't look like it's supporting when it's not attached. That's, I can just say that for sure. If it's not attached, it doesn't look like it's supporting. Okay, so this technique of putting it on the box like this to hold it is actually the way I'm going to do this when I prime the hull over the weekend, because it seems to work. And there's only two little support spots where hopefully there won't be too much paint buildup. And if there is, I'll be able to sand it away. Um, okay, I'm going to let this be no longer held firmly in place. See this, that's the situation here. If you look on this side, you can see that all those parts are firmly together, but on this side, that little prong is definitely still showing. So what I'm going to end up doing is putting an excess of cement on there, I think. Oh, a little too much. I'm going to push it down and hold that firmly in place for 3 minutes, because there's nothing more exciting. I think this toothpick is just even too big. I need to get a pin. A pinpoint is what I need to get the cement to where it needs to be. Okay, and now I've got it everywhere. Not everywhere. I've got it in places where I really don't want it. So I'm going to push this down and hold it on both sides now firmly for 3 minutes. The other side, yeah, I need to put more cement on this side, because when I push it up on one side, it pushes it up on the other. It rocks back and forth. If I had been really careful in test fitting these parts initially, I would have discovered that the center bit here is a little too high. Okay, right there. I could take this all apart, I guess. Is the center bit's a little too high. And what happens is it rocks back and forth on it. I'm going to hold this for a while, and hopefully that will work. And if not, I will have to disassemble this somehow and modify the central support on the hull, grind it down basically, if this doesn't hold. I'm holding it firmly in place now for the recommended time. Yep. Okay. So, yeah, after I've held this firmly in place for at least 3 minutes, and it's been a minute and a half, uh, yeah, then it'll be a good time for a break. So either this will hold, okay, either this will hold after I've held it firmly in place for 3 minutes, in which case I will then take a break, or it will not hold as I held it firmly in place for 3 minutes, in which case I will have to take the propeller shaft and horizontal dive planes, this large piece. I'll have to try to pry that off, clean up the cement, and modify it so that it works. The plastic is flexible enough so as I'm holding it here in place, it is where it needs to be. What I don't know is whether the grip of the cement is going to be strong enough to continue holding it in place. If this were CA glue, it would have grabbed right away. But it's also a really good chance that it would grab right away in the wrong place. And then I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Yeah, there's a second hand. I still got 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 15 seconds to go. And then I'll take my fingers off. That's always a thing. Take my fingers off and see if the cement has held strongly enough that I don't have to take this apart and try again. That is always, fortunately, most of the cement is on places where it's not highly visible, but still pulling it apart with oozing bits of clinging, half dissolved polystyrene plastic, and then cleaning it up with sanding and filing. It's really disappointing, because it's it it loses a day. It loses a full day of the stream. So instead of just being done and pretty much ready to go into painting, it ends up being not done and pretty much ending up where it was um, on what would it have been on Wednesday. Okay, so I've got a minute and 40 seconds to go yet. I don't know why it's a magic thing. I'm not going to be exactly 3 minutes, just intentionally. Intentionally, I'm going to not be exactly 3 minutes. I'm going to be a little longer than 3 minutes because I'd rather hold it for 11 seconds too long than not. And then I can say, well, I gave it as much time as it needed, and that apparently wasn't enough. So now I need to take it apart and start over. So now it's about a minute to go. Seems like a long time. Um, well, before all of this happened, I was, you know, talking about theme songs of television shows in the 50s and 60s. You know, live action and animated both, and grading them. And then I was speculating about, the letter grades and why there wasn't an E and why it went directly from D to E to F. That was a lot of fun talking about that. So if you watch our Dungeons and Dragons show, you will have an invitation to become a patron on patreon.com/Dyson Dungeons, which I'm inviting you to do here too. But if you do that and you become a patron, you have access to our improv warm ups and our hot takes and cold reads. And we used to ask Chat GPT, to give us stuff, and that turned out to not just didn't want to do that anymore. It wasn't any fun. But now we just do random stuff. So I'm going to be recommending at some point in the future that we use our hot takes from cold reads to, as a group, get together and give letter grades to different theme songs. Okay, that'll go all the way from 60 Minutes to Gilligan's Island to Cheers, maybe. Um, anything that has a theme song where there's music and lyrics. Maybe we'll just do some that are just music, like Mission Impossible. That's a pretty good one, even though it doesn't have any lyrics. It goes dum dum da da dum dum da da. That's pretty good. Well, it's been a while, so I'm going to take my fingers off and see if this is acceptable or not. Yeah, I think it'll be okay. I'm going to have to clean up. I'm going to have to do a little bit of sanding on it to get rid of the shiny spots from the cement, but it's going to be all right. I'm going to continue. I still will be able to put the propellers on. Still, well, yeah, I was going to take a break now, wasn't I? This goes on like this. Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that fits okay. I think I'm going to put. Let's see how tall the rudders are. I'm going to decide whether I'm going to put that on first or then the rudders, or vice versa. Okay, that's like they're not they're not interchangeable. Okay, one goes on one side, one on the other. That one goes. That one goes there. That's that's the starboard side. And this one should be the port side. I know it looks like the opposite, but it's upside down, so they're the opposite. Okay, I'm gonna put the guard on first, and then the rudders. That's the order in which I'm going to do it. So is this is still okay. It's holding on okay. I'm, it's going to be all right. So put the guard on. It goes like this, and it has to be held in place. Not necessarily firmly, but it needs to be held in place because it has to be vertical. Okay, don't want it to be. Doesn't have much in terms of attachment points, and so it has to be held. carefully so that it stays vertical. Needs to be cleaned. There's still some, there's always something. There's a little distortion right here. Okay, I need to take the break. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to come back and look at this again and make sure that it's all adequate. This one fits much better than this here. I might put a little filler in there. No, that one just, I don't know if anybody's going to notice that or not. The gap there. You know, it's supposed to look like it's coming out. So I am going to put a little bit of filler in here, right there, just to do that. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And then, but let me take a break and come back and then do that. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this or not. It's going very slowly because of, yeah. I would like to get it painted over the weekend. So maybe I'll go a little longer if the dogs are behaving. I don't know. But I'll be back in just a few minutes. No, I sat down and almost started doing stuff. Um, duh. And I went, duh. I went, duh, because I hadn't turned the brake off. And then I immediately just made more errors. Okay, what happened was I wanted to clean these parts, right? And so I got some isopropyl alcohol on the paper towel, but I got too much and it spilled all over. And now I'm probably going to pass out from fumes or something. It just seems for me that I can't do anything without like knocking it around or dumping it or doing. Or, that's why I try to take some precautions, like working over a box. Um, you know, sort of. Okay, I'm going to put this part on. Just going to be brave here and apply the cement right to the surface where it contacts. And yeah, and then attempt to hold it, attempt to put it where it's supposed to be there. That is, again, a perfect example of why I do not use CA. Okay, can you imagine what that would have been like? bad enough as it is with this. Why does it keep turning? I keep rotating it. Come on. It's just so weird. I can't parts lined up here. I got cement on here. Okay, I should have done that. So if you get cement on a part like that, you don't want it. Probably really the best thing to do is just let it set and then sand it later instead of trying to wipe it off like I just did. Don't do what I did. Okay? It'll just mar the surface more. But if you just let it set and then sand it a little bit later, you'll get the surface to look okay. The idea here is for it to be like vertical and not tipped or tilted. Okay, it looks okay. Now these guys go here one side and then the other. And again, the same thing is that they're supposed to be vertical. So just going to do one and then the other. That was way too much cement. It's just going to ooze out. I am not going to wipe it. I'm going to try to dab it just to reduce the volume of cement in that opening. That the precision applicator really just is not that precise. I'm putting this side on first because it's hard for me to do things with my left hand, as you can see. I'm not ambidextrous in any at all, in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to hold this in place for a couple of minutes, maybe. Maybe it'll be okay. I want the gap between the rudder and the hull to be uniform. Okay? And and not turned. Okay. Yeah, all this alignment, the parts stuff, right? So there's little spots, cement spots that will need to be, that I'll have to sand. I can just see them like there. And if they stay shiny like that, then I'll just rub them really lightly with the stuff, 1,000 grit. Okay. And what I'm going to do next, still remembering to do it, put a touch of filler right there. You've seen this happen before. It gets everywhere. And this just I always just make a huge mess whenever I use this. I do not fully understand why that is, but it is. I need way better eyes. I need to be able to see much better than I do. stuff is drying before I get it on. It's good that it dries quickly. It's not good that it dries so quickly I can't get it to where I want it. I have to see if I damaged that or not. I knocked it as I was just, the usual thing, right? Going to or from the surface. I bashed into the guard with my finger. And I'm getting this stuff everywhere but where I want it. Actually, there. That will look okay. I'll clean it up a little later. Okay, so I have to check this again after I smashed it. Okay, those seem to be pretty well, pretty well lined up. And if they look okay to me, I guess they'll look okay once it's completed. Okay. Now the next parts are the bow planes. These two, I think, these are ambidextrous. Maybe one fit on either side. This will go on like that, or it'll go on like that. I do believe they are the same. The bottom, that looks good there. That looks pretty good there. Just test fitting them. Yeah, good thing I'm test fitting, and that does not fit in the hole. Neither of those fit in those holes. What I need to do, really need to do, is not bump the stuff on the back, on the stern here, while I am trying to get the parts to fit. It's there now. This part to fit on the other side. Doesn't, not much has to come off, but pins are too big for the holes. should be working over a box, but I didn't. Getting a little impatient, am I? Yes, I am. Okay, so what's going to happen here is because I've got some bright spots with the excess cement, because no matter how careful I try to be, there is the difference between desire and results. So no matter how careful I try to be in the application of the cement, um, it just still gets, it still makes a mess. I'm going to put those on first, and then the ones that go in front of them. Left first. And then this is going to be the same sort of diddly stuff where it's a matter of getting it, so it's lined up and in all in all axes. That went suspiciously well. Something's going to go wrong. So, as you know, because I've told you now, that I have to sand off that bit of filler that I put in on the propeller shaft. And I need to clean up some bright spots from the excess cement. And I'm not going to be able to do that today. But I still very much would like to paint this over the weekend. And so I am going to um, do that before I paint it, which is to say, not on the stream. Because it won't be on the stream. Why not? Well, because I would have to wait until Monday to do it, and then I wouldn't be able to get anything more done on this until Wednesday, and I don't want to just waste everybody's time. I don't have anything else to work on. So getting this painted over the weekend is actually an important thing, and I'm going to accomplish that by not breaking the railing. Accomplish that by doing the light sanding, little bits of cleaning up sanding just before I paint it. When it comes time to painting it. cement actually might have been better for this, but it is what it is. Yeah, yeah. Things things work better if you can like hold on to parts. I'm going to recommend that to those of you who have fingers that still work and all of that. That instead of dropping the pieces and having them come off and things like that, that you don't do that. Okay, I'm going to say that is not too bad. The tiniest bit. This is it's actually eventually adhering. Cement underneath there. Yeah, tiny bits of cement that need to be cleaned up because technically, no, I guess those are fins. They're kind of hinged. I was saying there's little gaps here, but I think those are supposed to be there. I mean, this is kind of like a guard, so I think theoretically I should I should put filler on those gaps. Say I probably should. Yep, I know I went quiet there for a bit again. I really don't know. I think those the little openings are the same on both sides. They're symmetric. So I think it's okay to just leave them like that because those are attached and they are called the bow plane. Like there's two of them. I think that's supposed to be a guard before the plane. Like it's supposed to really be strongly attached to the hull, but I'm actually not sure. They look okay from the top. I think I'm not gonna mess with them any more than they are now. I'm gonna just say that that's like a welding seam or something. I don't like quite how that fit, but it didn't go in to the opening quite far enough. I don't think it'll be noticeable after it's painted. am I doing? And I still have 45 minutes left. Okay, well, I keep staring at this and I can't see that I can make any changes that will actually help. So that's still okay. Those are okay. I'm going to just say that is done. I'm going to keep this here, the files away. So what's going to happen to the submarine? No, this box is useless now. What's going to happen to the submarine next, at least in intent, if not in reality, in intent anyway. The intent is that I will do a little bit, there'll be some tiny bits of light sanding, just tiny little touches where there was excess cement, okay, which will make a bright spot here, okay, that I need to just rub ever so lightly with this very fine sandpaper. Um, to get rid of the bright spot before I paint it. And then while it is sitting on the box like this, okay, or another box, one of these boxes, I'm going to take this gray primer and spray the bottom of the hull. Get the whole thing done in this, and that's the color it's going to stay. It will then be finished, the bottom of the hull. And then, very carefully, probably with great frustration, I will get out the masking tape and mask off the line between the dark and the light grays along here. Okay, I'm going to do that without breaking any of the things I just attached, because I wanted them to go on there before I painted. Or out, I mean, it's obvious now because like the cement, like that spot there that you can't see, there's a little tiny bright spot right there where the cement got on it. Okay, if that had been painted and then I attached it, that that would have been very hard to fix. I would have had to sand it and repaint it and hope that the lines didn't show. But this way I can get rid of that by touching it very lightly with this sandpaper and then painting it, and then it won't show. Okay. So that's it. The downside is that when I attempt to tape, there's a very fine line, an extremely fine line molded onto the hull. When I attempt to tape that, okay, when it gets around to these bits here, I have to be really careful not to break anything that is attached, because that's the point. It's supposed to be attached, so it's supposed to stay attached and not break off. So that will be a challenge. But that challenge is going to wait for Monday. So I'm going to put that here, cover it with some paper towels. And you'll say, well, then what? Now what? Well, now what is I'm going to inspect the brass propellers. think I'm going to put a second coat of paint on these. I think I'm going to do that. Here I am thinking I'm going to do that, followed up by actual action of actually doing that. So as you can see here, there's way too much paint. Do that again and get way too much paint. Yeah. I mean, I said oof, not because it hurt, but because, no, really, all I got was a bubble. It looked like a lot of paint, but it was just a bubble. Now there's too much paint. I was putting the cement away, and I dropped it and almost knocked one of these over as I was doing that. So why am I doing this? I'm doing this because if I were to inspect these, I would see that I missed some spots. Um, how do I know that? Because I just always do. There's always a missed spot. And if I put a second coat of paint on, there might still be missed spots, but it's less likely. Okay. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to say that what's going to happen now is I'm going to talk about Dice and Dungeons and our Dungeons and Dragons show and how you absolutely positively must watch it. Either catch it with a live chat on Sundays or on YouTube, where you can get the old episodes, previously streamed episodes, and catch up with the story and all of that. I do that, and you can become a follower on Twitch. You can become a subscriber on YouTube, I think. You can go to patreon.com/Dyson Dungeons and become a patron, which would be really amazing. If you did that, that would be a great thing to do. In other words, do a lot of things to support the show. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do is talk about that. And then I'm going to give a, yeah. So here I am. I was moving the wash water. I just picked it up and moved it over. And of course, I bumped it right into the paint that was sitting there. That's a little clatter that you heard because I what else to do other than knock things over? Um, those kinds of things are starting to warn me. I'm getting warnings now. The warnings are maybe it would be a good idea just to finish early today because what I am doing is I am getting even more clumsy than usual in terms of bumping into things and so on, like reaching over and putting the brush away. I could have bumped into the paper towel, which you think, okay, well, you just bumped into a paper towel. But no, underneath the paper towel are pieces that are setting. And if I bump them, they'll get out of alignment, and that would be a problem. Okay. So in this jar are tiny little pieces that go onto the top of the hull. There are actually kind of surprisingly few. There are not very many of them. Um, those are going to go on after the hull is taped, masked. Okay. After the hull is masked, and then I'm going to paint the top of the box. No, I'm not going to paint the top of the box. I'm going to paint the top of the submarine while it is standing in a stand. Oh my! That was a great example of amazing incoherence. Um, yeah, obviously, I need more rest. So Thanks for bearing with me today. I hope it was entertaining as things sort of happened and sort of didn't. And, I'll show you once again that something did happen. Is I put stuff on the bottom of the submarine. Okay. I got some diving planes. I got the propeller shaft and the rudders. The propellers will go on at the end after everything is done. I talked about how I'm going to now paint all of this primer gray color. Okay. I'm going to do that and then turn it over and mask the hull as well as I can right along the little line that that separates the dark from the light colors. And on Monday, if things go okay, you'll see that this will all be this stuff that's showing now. Okay, will all be painted this primer dark gray, and then I will get out the masking tape and try to define a really, really nice clean line along the hull between the dark and the light gray. And then I will cover it over carefully with uh, paper or something, and then turn it over and attach the stuff on the top except for the guns. And then a two-step process of priming that and then painting it the light gray. And then it gets unmasked and the guns and the propellers go on and it'll be finished. Something terrible will happen along the way. I don't know what it will be. I don't know when it will be. I just know that there will be something terrible happen along the way that will make me just want to just either work really hard to fix the problem or maybe do tiny little fine line touch up. I'm not sure. Or maybe just say, this is going to be a C minus model. I am sorry. That's the way it goes. I'm not sure. Um, Show up on Monday and Wednesday of next week, and along with me, find out what horrors await in the development of the putting together of the submarine thing here. But yeah, I'm going to wrap up before I really just do something that will be harmful to the model. Oh, no, there's something I can do. I can say, I don't know if am I going to continue the stream after this or not? Let me put the box here so you can see that. If I continue the stream after doing the U-505 submarine, either completing it successfully or making a mess of it, one or the other. Okay. It's to be seen which one will happen. What would I do next if I do anything next? Hmm. I wonder if there might be a place to display that if I do it. I'm trying to do things that are small enough so that they can be put somewhere. Like I have a USS Constitution, old iron size, which will end up being like this big and that tall, or a plank built America's Cup, America's Yacht, which is which would be beautiful if it were completed, which would also be like this big and that tall. So what do you do with those when they're done? They just collect dust, and then they get so much dust on them you can't clean them. And then after spending hundreds of hours making them, you just throw them away because they're just ugly and covered with dirt. Um, I'm going to go off screen and mutter to myself. You're going to hear me. Okay. I'm going to go look at some things that I could build. Um, I'm actually kind of tempted to build this one. What I really would like to build is the F-100 Thunderbird. Bring them both out. This is assuming I continue to do something. So this is an old kit. A lot of these kits are vintage kits. Um, and what's really cool about this one is that it comes with an outrageous decal set. It's under this, okay, that um, when it's applied to the model, makes it look like a Thunderbird, okay? And these are old decals. And what I discovered with old decals is that there's a really significant chance that they will just disintegrate. And they're gigantic, okay? And when they cover 2/3 of the plane, make it look like a Thunderbird from the bottom. Um, and it would look amazing if I could get those on, okay? To wrap it around the nose to make it look like that. That's a completed model by somebody who knows what they were doing. Actually, I'm thinking they probably painted that rather than use the decals. But um, I could do this, and if the decals failed, then I would just have an F100. Okay, I would just paint it silver like I did with the Pogo. The other thing I could build. This is actually kind of a cool model. I should. I need to look this up on eBay to make sure I'm not destroying a lot of value. I was going to build an X15 model, a 1/48 scale X15, but I found out that it's selling on eBay for like $102 or something. But this is the Atlas Mercury. This is the this is the system. The, the, this is what it's supposed to look like when it's built. Okay. This is what went into orbit, and you can make it three different ways. The base part is the same. Move this out of the way. The rocket part is the same, but you can put either the Big Joe, which was the test of the capsule to see if he could actually go up and come down without burning up, or you can make it um, the original capsule which had portholes, or the one with windows. Okay, and I'll have to look to see which was which. M1 to M4, as I think they were the first ones, the ones that like John Glenn did the first U.S. orbit with. So this model might be kind of interesting to do. Um, I don't think it would just be. There's not too much detail painting on it. It's mainly just painted aluminum, and this aluminum spray paint I have is actually pretty decent. It's pretty good. Um, there's some little red lines, detailed red lines. That shouldn't be too hard to paint. So hmm, I'm thinking I'd really like to do this, but I'm so afraid the decals will just disintegrate that it would turn into a disaster. Um, Although I would still have an F100 model in aluminum without the Thunderbird design on it, or doing the Mercury Atlas. So what I'm going to do between now and then sometime in the future, between now and sometime in the future, is I'm going to check to see whether Horizon Models Mercury Atlas model is a valuable thing or not. Because I don't want to. If I can sell this for $100, I probably would, rather than build the model. So I'm going to write myself a note. Here I am. Otherwise, I'll forget. I'll get distracted by something because I have a lot of chores to do. And if I start doing the chores, I'll forget to look this up. this is my notepad, is the Horizon models. Mercury Atlas valuable. That's my note. Even if it doesn't look like it, what I said is what it says. Okay. So between now and Monday, what I am planning to do, maybe I will accomplish it or not, is I'm going to do some light sanding on the U505 hull, and then primer it. Use a fresh can of primer, not the one. And I also need to test to see if this color gray is any good. I'm going to test that too. There, I'm going to do some things, but I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop because I'm babbling badly now. I eventually will finish the submarine. It'll either look good or it won't. If it doesn't, oh well. If it does, yay. But when we come back on Monday, hopefully I'll be back on Monday, it will be painted dark gray, and I will need to do some masking so that I can turn it over and assemble the top of it and paint it light gray. But you have a good weekend, and I will see you on Monday at more or less 10. Take care.